address the proceedings, following which we would remain standing for the national anthem.
Pleasant good morning to all. I pray that you'll adopt a position of reverence as we seek God's presence here with us this morning. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Indeed, God, we count it a privilege that we are on the land of the living here this morning. We thank you, God, for your waking mercies and indeed for your traveling mercies to be in this place here today. We pray in a special way, God, that you'll be with those who might be on their way, that they may arrive safely. As we gather in this place, O Lord, we recognize your presence here with us. We ask, dear God, that you will give us a safe passing today. That whatever is shared here today, God, it will be imparted upon the participants. We pray, O God, that you will be with those who will be presenting to us. We thank you for this golden opportunity whereby we can partner so that we can grow our young men here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We ask your divine presence with us once again, and we pray that you will bless each and every one of us. May you keep us. May you cause your face to shine upon us, O God, and grant us your peace, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen and amen.
Thank you very much. We'll now have the national anthem of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The Honorable Camilo Gonçalves, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology, and Mrs. Gonzalez. Mrs. Ronette Lewis, General Manager of the Center for Enterprise Development, Incorporated. Our featured speaker, business consultant, lecturer, and author, Dr. Julian Jules Ferdinand. Our esteemed panel of speakers for our panel discussion this morning. Our specially invited guests, you, the participants in this program, members of the media. We have a few members of the public who have joined us, and the staff at the Center for Enterprise Development, Inc., and other well-wishers. A pleasant good morning. Welcome. Today, we are gathered for the symposium, Men's Empowerment Business Symposium, that is being held under a special project that was developed by the Center for Enterprise Development entitled Technical Assistance for Men's Employment and Entrepreneurship Development, TAMED project. This project is a 6-month initiative, and it is funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We are happy to have you here with us this morning as we continue through this project to do our best to ensure that our men and a few women are exposed as much as possible to every opportunity that can help to develop, to help you to develop and to better position yourselves to operate more viable enterprises, to build on your innovative business ideas so that you can not just generate wealth for yourself, but for the entire economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So with those few words, I just want to welcome you all here. Today, our program takes three phases. We have this opening ceremony this morning, after which we are going to go into the panel discussion as listed on the program, and after the lunch break, various stakeholders and organizations and government departments, including financial institutions, would be here to meet with you so that you can get more from them as to how their programs and activities can benefit you as entrepreneurs. That being said, we want to move right ahead with the program, but just before I introduce our first speaker, let me just apologize for Minister Orlando Brewster, Minister of Housing and Informal Settlement, Youth and Sports. He's running a bit late this morning, but Minister Brewster would be joining us shortly, I hope. Thank you very much. And so, it is my pleasure at this time to invite our General Manager at the CED. And the CED, in case you had not heard it before, the CED is a unit under the Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology. So, yes, Minister Gonzalez is our boss, right? Yes, so Mrs. Lewis, Ronette Lewis, our General Manager, would now bring us some welcome remarks.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Ms. Phillips. I'm glad that I'm vertically challenged, so I always have to adjust them. So I was happy to be given one this morning. So, I still need to be, okay. All right, okay. So the Honorable Camila Gonzalez, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, Information Technology. The Honorable Dr. Orlando Brewster, Minister of Housing, Informal Human Settlement, Youth and Sports, who is on his way. Our esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, the media, good morning again to everyone. So it is my honor and my privilege to welcome you to the inaugural Men's Empowerment Business Symposium. And mind you, I say inaugural because we are hoping that this would not be the last of this event, that we would have many more events such as this geared towards our entrepreneurs. This gathering this morning stands as a testament to our collective commitment to fostering growth, resilience, and leadership among our entrepreneurs in our communities. This morning, we are here because we have recognized that it is important within this empowerment program to have more than just training. This initiative is really aimed at equipping our men, in this case a few specially selective females in the program, with the skills, the resources necessary for sustainable growth and development in their enterprises. The project has three components. There is a component of personal and professional development where we have the training, the workshops. We also have a component of mentorship. We have mentors within our business community who are matched with our mentees, who are currently working with our mentees, helping them to develop their businesses. And just a plug, if there are any persons who are interested in mentoring and you have not done so or you're interested in doing so, please, we can speak after, because there's always an opportunity for you to reach out and encourage some young person who is either starting or existing in their businesses. And the third component of our project is the financial grants. So each participant within the program is going to be given a financial grant that is going to go towards the development, sustainability, and growth of their enterprises. So all of these initiatives, all of these components are really geared towards doing just what I said earlier, developing growth and development within our entrepreneurs' businesses. When I speak to the entrepreneurs, I always get the same feedback. It is consistent. The consistent message that I'm getting from them, it's not easy. The program is not designed to be easy. It's going to be challenging at times. But what we have done is that we have tried to work with the entrepreneurs to ensure that it is not inundating, it's not overwhelming, because at the end of the day, the objective is for you to grow. It's for them to grow and develop in some capacity. So we don't want to deter you, we don't want to make you feel as though we're giving you a task beyond your abilities. We want to ensure that at the end of the day, you succeed. So it is challenging, but we are almost at the end of this program, and I am pleased to say that most of the participants have stayed the course, you have put the hard work in, and your reward, well, there are many rewards. You're going to get a short-term reward soon, but there are other rewards that will come, of course, with long-term continued effort and hard work. So this empowerment program highlights a growing recognition that empowering entrepreneurs is not just about individual success. And that's important for us to understand, that we're not just talking about a person who is sitting in front of us. And you see an individual who comes to training or who you may speak with, this individual has a family. So we are looking beyond the individual, we're looking at families, we're looking at communities, and we're looking at the overall development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I know Minister Gonsalves would speak a little bit after me, and he would also reinforce the government's commitment to ensuring that entrepreneurship and private sector development is important to the development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the economic development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you, all of you who are sitting here, and those who may hear my voice in entrepreneurship, you are important as well. You are an important part of the development of this nation. So today, as we delve into discussions on leadership, innovation, and professional development, let us remember that true empowerment comes from a collective and a shared view for a prosperous future for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I thank you very much for being here, and I sincerely look forward to the insightful discussions that will come and the partnerships that would emerge from this symposium. My job today was not to give you a speech, it was just to welcome you. So I have the easy part, so I welcome you all warmly, and I hope that you have a wonderful and fruitful discussion coming forward.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lewis. easy task this morning, but for sure, ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy for her behind the scenes in ensuring that this project is well executed so that we ensure maximum impact for you, the participants. Before I invite the minister to address us, I just want to acknowledge the presence of a gentleman who has been working very closely to us. As I said in the introduction, this project is funded by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. When they got this proposal from CED with this project, they did not hesitate. Immediately, they fell in love with the whole concept of a program to empower our male entrepreneurs. And so I just want to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Cozy Stewart, who is the representative of the Church of Jesus Christ for Latter-day Saints. Thank you. We're very pleased that we do have Minister Gonsalves with us this morning. He has a packed program. I think he has cabinet this morning as well. And so, Minister, as Mrs. Lewis alluded, would speak of how important and how passionate he is about anything to do with entrepreneurship. It's not just because he's CED's minister. From day one, he's always expressed his passion to see especially young people develop business ideas and grow various programs. And testament to this, we heard in his budget presentation of various initiatives that some of them are already coming on stream that would help budding entrepreneurs and those who are still fledgling with their ideas to develop, because that is part of his vision, to see that we have more independent-minded persons or people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are embarking on entrepreneurship as not just a career path, but for livelihoods as well. And so at this time, I invite the Honorable Camilo Gonsalves, Minister of Finance, Economic Planning, and Information Technology, to address us.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much for the preview of what I'm going to say. I feel like I don't need to say anything now. But I'm very happy that the Center for Enterprise Development is hosting another one of these wonderful programs. And I want to recognize very much the hard work that the CED has been doing in furtherance of business opportunity and business development across St. Vincent and the Grenadines for a number of years now. I don't think they get the credit that they deserve, but they've been working very, very hard to ensure that entrepreneurs, that business people, that people with the germ of an idea can develop that idea into a meaningful and profitable and enriching business. And so congrats to Mrs. Lewis and the entire team for the hard work that they have done. And of course, gratitude to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for the work that they are doing in this particular program, which is important. All the best intentions still need a little oxygen to make things happen, and we're very grateful for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in that regard. A few years ago, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines decided to front load or to emphasize or to prioritize the issue of private sector development and specifically entrepreneurial development. If you look at the history of not only St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but most governments in the region, the idea of business support has been on the large end of businesses. So we want to have incentive packages for the big businesses to come in and establish themselves, and we want to give concessions to the large businesses, the hotels and the supermarkets and the quote-unquote established businesses. And there was not sufficient emphasis on developing the entrepreneurial private sector. So the spirit of entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial spirit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and across the Caribbean, not just in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is not where we thought it would be or should be in the furtherance of the development of a dynamic economy. So when you went into the schools and you spoke to young people, they would say, look, I want to get my subjects, I want to get my degree, I want to get a job with the government. You know, that's sort of the get a good work. And not enough people saying, my dream is to start my business. My dream is to start a bakery or a landscaping service or a mechanic shop or a farm or whatever. There's a lot of people who wanted to be employees, and which is fine, which is absolutely fine, but not enough people who wanted to be entrepreneurs. And it is very often, when you study dynamic economies, it is the creative energy and almost the restlessness of the entrepreneurial class that drives economic activity. And so we began to look very closely at what was necessary, not only to assist existing entrepreneurs, but to develop that entrepreneurial spirit in the country, so that people thinking about their next step, whatever that step is in life, whether they're leaving school or they're transitioning from one job to another, or they're looking to make a little more money, or they're closer to retirement, whatever the case may be, that person considering that next step will consider developing a business of their own or an entrepreneurial idea of their own, because those are the seeds of innovation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and those are the seeds of real economic activity. Government is fine for what government is, but government is a large institution and they generally don't drive entrepreneurial activity and innovation and growth in new sectors. So we did extensive studies, particularly with youth entrepreneurs, because we wanted to find out, how do we get young people to think about being an entrepreneur, to think about starting their own business, to make that leap, because it's a risk, and every business person here knows that it's a risk to start your own business. It may fail, and very often they do fail. Businesses that, startup businesses don't have the best success rate. And each one of you who's still at it and is succeeding, it's almost a miracle, because many more fail than succeed. But we wanted to create that sense in young people especially, that if your business fails, you are not a failure. That you should take lessons out of that and move to your next business. Don't say, man, I tried this entrepreneurial thing and it ain't work, so I done with that. I want somebody hire me and give me a nice stable job now. That this spirit of this can-do spirit, I can do my own business, I can start my own business, I can make my business a success, I can hire people, I can grow, I can go from one plant to another, I can go from one shop to two shops, I can go from 2 employees to 4 employees, that spirit be fostered and just help to germinate and spread throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And when we spoke to young people, they raised a few things. The first thing, the obvious thing, is expensive. Can't do it. How do I start this business? I can't go to the bank. I don't have collateral. I don't have experience. They want me to do a business plan that is so detailed that, good Lord, I mean, you need a degree just to get the business plan done. And if I borrow money, even if I was able to borrow money, if I borrow the money in those early days of my business, all I'm doing is paying back the loan. That because my business is just starting, my income stream, my revenue isn't what it should be, and I have this loan over my head. It's $1,500 a month to pay the loan. When you put in the $1,500 and you put in the light bill and the water bill, God, I can't make it. And so capital was a big issue, that small businesses and entrepreneurs needed some sort of assistance beyond a loan. That loans are necessary, but but especially young entrepreneurs who are having trouble getting loans, that's a problem. And then another problem very often was related to finance, location. How can I get to put my business somewhere that people can be aware of my business, and a spot to put down your shop. I'm speaking in general terms here. And so the government began to come up with a number of solutions to this challenge. Big part, the cornerstone of this is the CED and the work that the Center for Enterprise Development does in helping you to develop that idea into a plan. An idea is not a plan. And very often people come to me and say, I have an idea for a business. And then when you ask them to talk through the idea, you realize they haven't gone beyond the idea. And the idea may be a good one, but the idea has to become a plan, something that you can make into an operation. Because people every day have ideas. Everybody in the rum shop has an idea. Everybody on the minibus has an idea. Everybody has an idea. But to make an idea a business is a journey. And this rigorous course that the CED is putting you through very often makes you examine your idea. Because when somebody tells you, hey, that's a good idea, that doesn't mean that's a good business. That just means it's a good idea. And you have to work from idea to business. And the CED does that work. And many of you are going through that work right now. And that was critical. Another part of it is to try to get resources into the hands of entrepreneurs. Now, we don't have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines an angel investor climate. We don't have investors who you can go to who will give you $1 million to start a business. It's not the nature of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I hope we get there at one point, but we're not there now. So the government, within its own constraints, decided that we would start a program called Prime, where we would give young entrepreneurs up to $40,000 to make sure that they have some of the startup capital that is needed. And the demand for that has been very, very high. But again, we get a lot of people coming to Prime with ideas and not plans. So you get a lot of people who come to Prime who say, I have an idea to open a mechanic shop, or I have an idea to run a taxi service, or I have an idea to be a landscaper, I have an idea to do catering, but they haven't yet become business people. The spirit is there. They want to go and do something for themselves, but they have not yet developed the plan to go with the idea. And so Prime has some magnificent successes, and I was telling my team the other day that we have to showcase some of the success stories of Prime so that people can see the magnificent work that has been done by that program. But it also has stories of people who got that money, spent the money, and a few months later, lock up shop because the plan did not, develop as far as it could. But that too was part of the Prime plan, because we didn't want your first business to be your last business because you took out a loan, your business flopped, and I ain't doing that again because I'm still paying the loan for the business that I started last year. So you come out of the process unscathed financially, but hopefully with some knowledge and a willingness to go and try again. So the Prime program became very important. Beefing up the CED became very important. Then we had the La Soufre volcano eruptions. And in our analysis of the impact of the volcanic eruptions, we learned that women-led businesses were disproportionately impacted by the volcano. And we went to the CED, and we partnered at that time with the government and people of Taiwan to create a women's empowerment program that was partly meant to address the fallout of the volcanic eruptions. The majority of businesses in the north of our country are women-led businesses. It's just fact of data. And those women-led businesses disproportionately carried a heavy burden of family rearing, that those women-led businesses took a lot of their money and spent on the family. Those businesses were almost just to maintain the family. And so the Center for Enterprise Development and the government of Taiwan and our government decided to have this women's empowerment program. And it was very successful. We led women through these same thing you're going through. So if women could do it all, they must be able to do it too. So I don't want anybody saying that the program is so hard. But same program, and a lot of very, again, important success stories came out of that. But during that program, we began to have the conversation of, it's very good that you have a women's program, but what about a program in support of male entrepreneurs? And it's very important for us to realize that in that respect, and in the context in which we live today, in this society, in this country, it's not just about making your male-led business a success. It is about holding you up as an example for other young men in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Very, very critical part of what we're trying to do here. All of you have to be ambassadors for doing things the right way, for want of a better word, want of a better phrase. A few weeks ago, I had a stretch in my constituency where I went week after week to 3 funerals of young men who had been killed by other young men in violent means. And in between those funerals, I went to the site of a triple murder in my constituency, where men again were the perpetrators. They were wearing masks on the video, but it's clearly that men were the perpetrators. And all of us have these stories of, and we all do this hand-wringing about what's going on with our young men. And there are a million possible causes and overlapping causes. Is it the education system? Do we have too many women teaching now and not enough men? Where are the male role models? We're looking at census data right now. It tells me that there are 11,000 fewer married people today than there were in 2012. That's just a decade ago. That means there are 5,500 fewer two-parent households in St. Vincent and the Grenadines than there were 13 years ago. And what does it mean for young men? Are young men being left behind? We all talk about it. How do we do this? How do we solve this problem of young men? We have a program called On Site. Dr. Jules is very familiar with the program and has been a very big supporter of the program, where we put young people into entrepreneurial situations, into work situations with the private sector, and the private sector then hires them after 6 months. We pay their salary for 6 months. The most recent cohort of On-Site, about 150 young people, 85% of the applicants are women. The one before that, it was 87% of the applicants are women. Guys just not interested. And when I go into Glen and Diamond and I see the proverbial boy and the guys on the block, and I say, there's a job here or there's a job there, why you don't go, so-and-so is hiring. They tell you sun hot. They tell you the slavery day is done. They tell you that minimum wage, they can't make it for me. Or they tell you that between mommy, wifey, and Smalley, they're well fed and they're well taken care of. So there's no need for them to do any more than what they're doing until wifey or mommy or Smalley stop supporting you. And then they turn sometimes to illicit means to go forward. And the hero in the neighborhood is not daddy, or it's not the teacher, or it's not the businessman. The hero is somebody else. Is the gangster, is the gallus, is whatever. And what is emulated or what is held up as an example is something that is destructive to the society, ultimately. So what we want you to do here today is not just be successful in your own right. Obviously, with my Minister of Finance hat on, I want all of your businesses to succeed and to grow, because then you will pay taxes. But with a wider hat on, I want your businesses to succeed and grow, because you will be examples to a generation of young men who are seeking positive examples to follow. It's not that they're blind and they don't want to see success, or they don't want to succeed themselves. They want to see examples. They want to see that Tom Brown came from nothing. He was one away. He grew up right here. And look at where he is now. Look at what he has done. They want to see that this young man, by the sweat of his brow, lifted himself up and did this and that. And maybe I can do that too. That's what they want to see. And to do that, we need examples. We need positive examples that make hard work and success sexy to the next generation. And that is the extra responsibility that each of you have in this program. Your first obligation, do well for yourself. You have a family to raise. You want to succeed. You want to make your business profitable. You want to grow your business. And I want you to do that as well, for economic reasons and for your own reasons. But where we are now, we don't have the challenges with gender that some other places have. I was speaking to somebody the other day at the World Bank, and they were saying, boy, we really, women in some countries, they have to walk 20 miles to the well to get water, and when they're coming back with their bundle of sticks, they're tribesmen who want to take advantage of them. And I said, this is all true, but it is not our experience. Our experience is that after secondary school, women outperform men academically. And that within the lower ranks of the civil service related to the last 20 years or so, women are entering the civil service at a rate of 3-to-1 relative to men. And that every graduating class from law school is, when I was a young boy, they had a lawyer's cricket team. You can't have that anymore. You can have a lawyer's netball team. But there are not enough men coming out of that practice anymore. Our reality is that men have not taken advantage of the advantages that they have had historically and societally. They've become complacent, and they have become destructive to the interests of our society. And again, there are a million reasons for that. Million reasons. That's a whole nother speech for a whole nother time. But in lifting up entrepreneurs, which we see as a cornerstone of a new economy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, one with a dynamic entrepreneurial class, we have to make sure that young men see men as examples that they can do it too. We want to support entrepreneurship in multiple ways, not just with Prime, not just with incentives, not just with training, but with holding you up as an example. We want you to know that once you have completed a CED program. The next thing you want to import is on us as the government. So you write the government, you say, I want to bring in my tools, I want to bring in my equipment, and I have graduated from this particular CED program. Put it in the letter. Put it in the letter. And the next thing you bring in, that is on us. So it's not just the cash grant that you get now. It is the tools to help you grow. Say it, write it, tell us. We'll double check. It might take a couple of weeks, so don't do it when anything reaches the port already. Don't do it when anything already on the port, because we have to check with CED to make sure you graduate, and then they come back and tell us and all the rest of it. But we are going to do our part to help you grow. You are private sector, so the bulk of this responsibility rests with you to make your business succeed. But what we are going to try to do is to create the environment to make it easier for your business to grow. I'm very happy to see this many businesses here. I'm very happy that the CED is doing this work going forward. The government stands with you, supports you, walks with you lockstep. But more than that, we know where we are, we know where we live, and I want you to be aware of your responsibility as men to help the next generation of men do what you are doing. Be positive, be strong, be supportive, and take that chance to move away from relying on barrel, mommy, wifey, and Smalley to get them through, and to say that I can stand on my own two men. And in the old parlance, be a man, and stand up and develop your business, support your family, and help this country grow. You're all playing that role. I'm grateful for you. I applaud you. And I thank you very much for participating today.
Thank you very much, Minister Gonsalves. As usual, he bowled well. Just from what the minister said, I just want to reemphasize that male marginalization is not just exclusive to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's throughout the entire Caribbean. All of our countries in the region are battling this challenge, and we can only continue to develop programs such as this to try to bring about the positive change that we need for our males in our societies. Now, Minister mentioned about the nature of the program being rigorous. The women did it. You guys are doing it now. And you guys even got some add-ons that the ladies did not get. The ladies did not get personal development sessions and all of that you are getting. The thing is, you have stuck it out thus far. When this project was advertised, many men contacted the CED or came to our doors, because for so long they kept knocking us. Are you always focusing on the women, and what about we as ministers said, what about we the men? But then when they got the description of what the program entails, people stepped back, because people thought, they wanted. They don't see the need for the capacity building that you're going through as entrepreneurs. They only see the need to just be given the grants, the finance. And I say that to reemphasize that, yes, you're getting the grant at the end of this, but if we do not equip you to understand how you are to invest and utilize those grants to develop your businesses, then all is futile. It's not always just about money. You can be given a briefcase of money, but if you do not know how to spend that money, how to invest that money, you're just going to waste it. Okay? So I just want to reinforce that. And then secondly, through the Regional Women's Empowerment Economic Project that ended some time ago, I remember there was a consultation for the development of certain tools for businesses in the region. And what their consultant found, Minister, while you spoke of the women always being out front with businesses, that's true. But for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, what they found was that most registered MSMEs are owned by men. The registered, and so participants, I raise that because you see why we have been repeating over and over and why we've been so hard on you to ensure that your businesses are formalized, that you do go to SIPO and get registered. A lot of women, they're leading businesses, but they have still not registered. Our data shows that the men in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, their businesses are leading in terms of registration. And again, well, Minister said it, we've been training and sensitizing you about taxes, income taxes, VAT, import duties, what have you. And now you have it from, as if I may be permitted to say, the horse's mouth. Not the gospel according to Mrs. Lewis or Keisha. Concessions are there for you once you do the proper procedures as entrepreneurs, that this is a further add-on for you to have some benefits to help your businesses to grow. So I thank you, Minister, for that announcement. Right? And before I move on, with regards to the unwedded people like me, I think it was late last year, something came out of somewhere in Asia. One of the Asian countries had announced, can't recall if it was a government policy, but companies really were favoring or passing policies where, okay, they're only hiring married people. Right? We don't have that in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That came back to mind when the minister mentioned the high numbers of unmarried people here. So maybe we need to do something. Thank you very much, Minister Gonsalves and Mrs. Gonsalves. I know at some point they would depart because he has another meeting, but for now we continue. Minister Brewster is not here as yet, so we are going to move ahead to introduce our featured speaker. By no means, he's not a stranger to us. You've had a personal development session with him. Dr. Jules Ferdinand, as he's more commonly known, is the operations manager at the One St. Vincent Group of Companies, OSV as we know it, and is the former chief executive officer of the East Caribbean Group of Companies. He is also a business consultant, lecturer, and author, and is the Chancellor's nominee of the Campus Council of the Cave Hill campus of the University of the West Indies, and a member of that council's Finance and General Purposes Committee, where he also functions as the chairman of the Audit Committee. Dr. Ferdinand is also the chairman of the board of directors of RBC Royal Bank Holdings, Eastern Caribbean Limited, and a member of the board of directors of the East Caribbean Group of Companies. He has served as honorary consul for Spain, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Spain to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for over 20 years, and he received the Mauritius Civil Cruz Civil Order Cross from Spain's King Juan Carlos for outstanding service to the government and people of Spain in his capacity as honorary consul. Dr. Ferdinand is the author of the motivational books, Be Inspired and The Journey Destined for Greatness. He has a weekly column in the Vincentian newspaper and writes extensively on the need to cultivate habits that retain a focus on constantly improving personal performances. He hosts an early morning calling radio program on the Christian radio station Praise FM, 107.5 FM or 95.7 FM. And he conducts the Wednesday edition of Viewpoint on WFM Radio 99.9 FM. These radio programs focus on influencing positive development of the listening audience. I now invite, before I invite Dr. Ferdinand, I am going to stick a pin. Minister Brewster has just joined us, and I know he has to go to cabinet. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Just let him catch his breath, because if we go into the feature address, then he won't get to leave. So I would come back to Dr. Ferdinand, and without much ado, I would invite the Honorable Orlando Brewster as Minister of Housing and Informal Human Settlement, Youth and Sports to address us. Minister, as you already know, Minister would have served as the Minister of Gender Affairs, and he too, like Minister Gonsalves, just say young people and men. This minister, I know, has been even going on the blocks across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to chat with and meet with our young men who are out there not doing anything quite meaningful or positive with their lives. And so I invite Minister Brewster to address us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, my good friend Keisha. Allow me to acknowledge my cabinet colleague, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Camilo Gonsalves. I see also Anthony Regisford, my good friend, Dr. Jules, Stuart Haynes of NIS. I see also my good friend and colleague from Windward Island Games, and Cozy, Stuart. I see a lot of Stuarts in the house. And all of the other dignitaries and specially invited guests to this morning's forum. First, I must give my apologies. What happened, I had 2 events booked. And yesterday afternoon, my secretary says to me, don't forget you have the event for national mobilization. So this morning I got up, I got a text saying that the event has been postponed. So I'm taking my time getting ready until I get a call from Keisha. So I said, okay. I said, I'm getting ready, but I'll be there. I'll drop in to say my few words. And indeed, I am here. So again, please accept my apologies for being late. So, first of all, I want to commend the CED team for such a wonderful initiative geared towards the development and the empowerment of our young men here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Not only the young men, but also the middle-aged men, probably like myself, and the older men as well. Because when we speak of men's empowerment, we have to speak across the board. I'm happy that she mentioned that I was once the Minister of National Mobilization. I held that portfolio for quite some time, and gender affairs fell under that portfolio. And you know, I remember I had many meetings with my staff there at the ministry, and I would hear all the time women's empowerment. And excuse me, ladies, I'm not being sexist or biased in any way, but I always wondered. I said, what are we doing for our young men and our boys? And before I left, I think they had started a MEND program, which was very informative. It was a program that was needed, and they targeted young men at the secondary school age. But this morning, I'm happy that we are talking about strategic investment for innovation and sustainable business growth. And I don't know, there's just a feeling sometimes that some of our young men, they're not pushing into the innovative sector and the business sector as it relates to starting startups and entrepreneurships. And like Keisha said, I've spent many evenings on the block. And I remember in medical school, there are many challenges that were highlighted as it relates to men, and why sometimes they're not making that extra step, that extra effort to push themselves into some of the business areas. I have worked with females as my head before, I've worked as a teacher with a principal who was a female. So I'm not saying that women can't lead. I have to be very balanced today. I know it's a men's symposium, but I'm being balanced as well. But like I said, there are many things. And one of the things that I found out very early, there's something in medicine called amotivational syndrome. And you can look it up. It's actually a syndrome that doesn't give persons the drive. Medically, it doesn't give you the drive so that you can push yourself to make that next step, that next level. But we have a lot of institutions here in St. Vincent that we can use to open these doors, to help to motivate our young men as it relates to getting into businesses and helping themselves. There's always a reliance on government, and the Minister of Finance, he's here, I know. There's always this reliance that, I have to get into the government system. I want to be in the government system. But some of the most successful persons, they started from the entrepreneurial level and built themselves up. And we have many men here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are sterling example. And we have here in the audience as well, persons who built themselves up strategically in order to see a better outlook for themselves and their families. Now, it is also important that we get in line with what is happening currently or the trends. And now on the market, my kids now, they're probably a little bit more tech savvy than I am. There's a new thing with AI. I was so amazed when my daughter said to me, Daddy, you can punch into AI a business that you're looking to start up, and they would give you a list of all of the things that you would need to get this startup going. So there are mechanisms and there are avenues for young men for you to start. And innovation is one of the aspects that you can use to propel yourself if you're interested in developing your businesses. I remember just recently I spoke in Toronto on the Invest SVG forum. And there are a lot of persons who think that getting into a business, you need a big shebang. There are many niche industries here that we can tap into. There are many avenues. Listen, I don't know if you saw it, Camilo, but on Father's Day, I took that day out and I spent the morning with my son. Yes, we got up very early. He was excited. And it's the first time I was going on an ATV tour. But I was really amazed when my good friend, he mentioned to me how this all started. This is a man in business, and he says it's a sacrifice, but it was worthwhile. And he's now seeing the fruits that he's going on now to add in another 10 ATVs. And these are some of the niche industries, and with our government making a push towards developing the tourism sector here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is time for us as men to look at some of the niche areas related to these industries and see how best we can tap into them in creating businesses here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I always say, even in my constituency, I said your product must not be the same as everyone. You must be strategic in how you market your product. I remember I went to Aguascalientes, Mexico. Instead of getting a jersey that says Mexico, and I remember it's one of my favorite jerseys. It was branded Aguascalientes. And I remember it's one of my favorite places to visit in Mexico. So sometimes you go across St. Vincent and you see that there are little trinkets, but they're all branded St. Vincent, St. Vincent, St. Vincent. But you need to put that personal touch based on your location, the area that you're from. Be strategic, be innovative as to how you can market your product and create a niche for yourself. And sustainability is another aspect, because you don't want to start your business today, young men, and by 2 weeks' time, your business is closed. So you have to look at your future outlook. Sometimes we are as men, some of us, we are very, I want to use the correct word, impulsive. like, yeah, I get an idea, and I want to start this. But we have not really sit down and say, well, let me plan this thing properly. Let me make sure that in the next 2 years, this is where I want to see myself. You know, and we can be, I have, listen, I've seen many persons, they've come to me with business ideas. And I would sit, I would listen. And sometimes I would say to them, you really, what about next year? What are you going to, yes, we're going to do this for this year. And he say, you know, Minister, I didn't think about that, you know. So I said, all right. So you need to sit down. You need to really look at this thing in depth. And then you make a decision, because it's not just for the short term. And one of the things that is very important that I must mention, and I'm seeing it in the Ministry of Housing, we have a lot of men here, skilled men, contractors, into the construction industry. But one of the things that we have to emphasize, and one of the things that we would have to make sure we bring all of them into one room, and I may have to lean on my good friend Stuart Haynes, money management. It is one of the fundamental factors that is deterring a lot of our young men in order for them to have a sustainable business. I know sometimes, for example, you give a contract. Before you put a nail in the wall, there's a mobilization. But if if you have an old car that needs a tranny, you have a mobilization of 10,000, the tranny costs $5,000. Impulsiveness. You take the 5,000 out of the 10,000, and then your workers complaining the next 2 weeks, boss, with my money there. So this is one of the avenues, and CED can also help in this, working with the Ministry of Housing, with a lot of our contractors. Some of them, they are now starting up. And we need them to have proper money management skills in order for them to create a sustainable business that can help them in the near future. So I'm happy that we're having such a symposium that would help our men and our boys as they get into the innovative industry, as they get into some of the strategic areas that we would need to help with different businesses across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I don't want to speak any longer because I'm not a feature speaker, and I want to listen to the feature speaker as well, because I know he will be very informative when he comes to speak to us. But this is just my little take as to how we can have some of the areas in our country that needs developing as it relates to men's empowerment, and also how we can help them to create a sustainable business, be strategic in creating that business. And I know that Keisha and her good team from CED and the Ministry of Finance, we all have to be on board and try our best to help our young men and boys. I want to close by saying this. We are known as hunters, gatherers, and providers. And we have to make sure that we are playing our role. We are living to that plan and purpose that the Almighty created for us as men. It is no longer time for us to sit back and relax and let your significant other, your spouse, I don't feel good as a man if I am not doing my bit of hunting and gathering. But hunting is a word you have to pay close attention to. The hunting I'm hunting is not what some may think. But because there are many songs that talks about hunters and gatherers. But I want to emphasize that, you know, it is our time as men. It is our time for us to step up to the plate, playing our role, playing our part. And we have to be leaders in our homes, at our jobs, even in our schools. And that is what we were naturally born to do. So again, I thank you for having me this morning, and I encourage all of our young men and boys across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to play a meaningful part in the development of our nation. Play your role in the development of your family, your schools, your communities. God bless, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Brewster. short and to the point. I am happy that you are still desirous of working along with us here at CED. Just before you go, just to let you know that based on what you said there, our men this week, guys, you see how the pieces of puzzle are fitting together. This week you're focusing on costing and pricing your products, right? And you're seeing how important it is based on what the minister said. Both ministers, Gonzalez and Brewster, would now take their leave to attend cabinet and other meetings, but we just want to express once again our gratitude for having them here, symbolic of their commitment to ensuring that entrepreneurship continues to grow in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That bus is rolling. We're not gonna crash and we're not gonna park aside. We have to go to the destination. I just want to acknowledge, didn't forget you, good to see you, Mr. Lewis. In our midst today is the former general manager of the CED, Mr. Felix Lewis. Mr. Lewis has retired, but not retired. He's there to us at CED, and he continues to lend his support and service wherever needed. Mr. Lewis is always there, and so hence he's with us on this men's empowerment project, which is something he started lobbying for long before he retired from the CED. Good to see you again, Mr. Lewis, welcome. So we would now continue the program with the featured address by Dr. Ferdinand, and Dr. Ferdinand would speak on the theme of today's symposium, Power in Connection, Collaborating and Networking for Men's Business Growth. I give you Dr. Jules Ferdinand.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mrs. Ronette Lewis, General Manager of CED, and Felix Lewis, former manager. Mr. Cozy Stewart, representing the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Mr. Stuart Haynes, panelists. Anthony Regisford, Paul Morris, Alexis John, Glendris Holder, Dominic Frederick. The next few minutes are really tailored to share some insights on the topic that you have heard described, where we would look at the power of in connection, collaborating and networking for men's business growth. It's very important that we understand and appreciate from the onset that there is value in collaboration, but there's also risk. So what I want to share with you in the next few minutes would be some of the benefits of that collaboration, but also some of the things that we watch out for. We commend whoever may have been responsible for the floral decoration that you see here. The flowers are different, but look at how well they look together. They're not competing with each other, they're collaborating with each other. So there's a very important lesson there, even from the bouquet. Yes, we don't have to constantly compete. You can see as we go through, I've actually put a presentation together. This I consider to be strategic. I have had the distinct pleasure and privilege, the opportunity to interact with a lot of you when we did that session that focused on strategy in your business. I pause again to commend the CED for joining with the church group, the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, to put this on. it is critical that we understand and appreciate best practice in creating and sustaining a business project. And that is what has happened. When we think, for example, of a lot of the businesses today, we understand and appreciate that traditionally, you see a lot of what we call one-manism. Persons who have a lot of drive, and both ministers talked about that as a tradition that seems to exist. But I'm here to tell you, to suggest to you, to impress upon you, to implore that we also have to have a different kind of mindset going forward. We have to learn to work together and to collaborate with each other. So, regardless to how skillful we may think ourselves to be, regardless to how much academic credentials we may think we have, the real beauty and the real success comes from linking with other people to be able to achieve win-win type situations going forward. Win-win, so that they win and we win. It's not that I win at your expense. It's how we can both win together. So we're working on a mindset type situation here. So although it is very important to have the skills and the abilities that are necessary for success in business, the real beauty, the real benefit will come from the synergies that we create with working together. Synergies. Let me give you an example from human nature. Them things that you don't, well, those things that you don't like in your house eating down your wooden structures. We call them woodlice. Other people call them termites. They work in harmony. They have a synergy that they work out. We prefer if they do that in the fields outside, rather than coming in and eating out your kitchen cupboard. Synergy, working together. They communicate, and communication is critical. You say, Jules, termites communicate? Oh, yeah. I had an experience some time ago where it became evident that termites had gotten into my study. They were very selective. They went to the hardcover books. They didn't bother with them little magazines and so on. They went to books, hardcover books, that I had bought many years ago, planning to read when I retire. And them fellas go and read the books before me. And as I separated them, I realized they were communicating. They make a tapping sound. Tick, 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 tick. If you listen, you hear them. When you disturb them, you hear them tapping. They communicate. I was able to decode what they were saying. They were saying, hey, that bald-head fella Jules is here. He coming to disturb us. Let us reposition and regroup. But I was able to get rid of them before they reposition and regroup. Even though it's a laughing moment, it's also a lesson for us too, in terms of how in nature they work together. There was a competition in Europe some years ago when they still have, during the summer months in some of the European countries, they still have competitions. I believe that's where the shot put came from. They throw big stones, for instance, in places like Scotland. They lift up very big logs and see who could throw it the furthest. There was a competition that they had for some horses. They latched a horse to a sled and put weights on it to see which horse was the strongest to pull the greatest weight across a distance. Might have been like about 10 or more feet. The number one horse, the horse who won, pulled 4,500 pounds. That's a lot of weight. But remember, it's on a sled, so it could pull it. The number two horse, the horse that came second, pulled 4,000. Then the audience said, I wonder how much they can pull if you latch the two of them together. They latched them together. People started to speculate. 4,005 plus 4, okay, 8,5, maybe 9. They pulled 12. How is it possible that one will pull 5, one will pull 4, but you latch them together, they pull 12? That is synergy. My message to you, my friends, my brothers and my sisters, is that we need to look for those possibilities where we create synergy, where we pull our resources together and we could do so much more. So this idea of the lone wolf, going it alone, we need to revisit it. Teamwork has its value, collaboration has its value, but you need to know best practices where that is concerned. And so where in these next few minutes I'm trying to influence you to look differently at working together. Because our generation would have been socialized to hear and to think that partnership is a sinking ship. That's not so. If you don't do it right, it can sink you. But when you work together, beautiful things can happen. If we had time, I could give you local examples of where that has happened. But we have to move on, and there are some other thoughts I want to share with you as we go ahead. Businesses today face what I call whitewater challenges. It's rough out there. Both ministers talked about some of the challenges that are there. All along the value chain, there are challenges. From procurement of raw material to conversion within the enterprise to distribution to our customers. It's a whitewater type situation. But we should not be daunted by that. We understand and appreciate that that will happen, but each member of the team pulling their weight can make it happen. This is as true within our enterprises as it is inter-enterprise between companies. We encourage it. And I want to share 2 examples with you about the value of teamwork and working together. The first comes from some outstanding research that was done by Professor Selwyn Ryan and Dr. Tymoon Stewart. The research was done over a decade ago, where they looked at the performance of businesses in Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Jamaica, and Grenada. And when they looked at the success stories, it was very revealing. Those companies that were prepared to work along with other companies in partnership did much better than those who tried to go it alone. They particularly highlighted the Syrian Lebanese communities and the Chinese in Trinidad and Tobago and in Jamaica in particular, highlighting that they were competing on the same street in the capitals of Port of Spain, in Bridgetown, in Kingston, and in St. George's, competing with each other next door, but they collaborated with their purchases. So yes, they will compete on the street, but they get together and they send one person to Panama to purchase the items that they will sell. Collaboration can make it happen. And let me share a personal example. In the late 1990s, I did some research within the OECS because we were anticipating that even as the Treaty of Chaguaramas was going to be evolving, the MDCs, the more developed countries, were orchestrating to remove some of the preferential treatment that some of the LDCs, primarily the OECS territories, were benefiting from. The flour mill in St. Vincent, the flour mill in Grenada. There were 6 pasture producers in St. Lucia. I interviewed all the CEOs of the 16 food manufacturers in the OECS, and I advocated what I'm advocating to you about the benefit of synergy, the benefit of partnership, the benefit of working together. The CEOs of the 6 pasture producers in St. Lucia, for example, were not even aware of the data that was available to them, that a lot of their competition was coming from outside the OECS. You had pasta that was coming from as far away as Japan, going into St. Lucia. Share the data with them, suggested to them you could benefit from working together, especially with the procurement of the raw material. The 6 CEOs that I had the conversations with, independent of each other, all of them said, not interested. One of them said to me, I prefer to see my company sink than go in a relationship that can help one of the others. About 6 months later, that same one called me and asked if I could come back to St. Lucia to have a conversation with him and the other 5 to see if they could come together because the competition had intensified. There's benefit in working together. We can make it, but we need to look at the best practices, and trust becomes critical. I am not suggesting to you that you go blindly into a partnership. That is folly, that is foolishness, that is ignorance. You need to calculate the risk, and as best you can, protect yourself going forward. So again, I say, to just go in blindly is folly, is foolishness, is ignorance. But you need to calculate the risk and make sure that you engage in proper practices. I want to leave you with 10 guides to help you along that decision. I've spoken to Mrs. Lewis already. A copy of this PowerPoint presentation will be sent to each of you through your email so that you could go through it. This is not intended to just kill time in today's symposium. My desire, my wish is that the thoughts that we share here will be beneficial to you as you go forward with your business. So consider, for instance, the importance of having shared goals and a shared vision. It's not everybody who will be interested in a partnership with you would look out for your interest. And don't assume that because they look like you, they think like you. You do have some dishonest people out there. You need to be able to be sure, be confident that their value system and yours are in alignment. So do the test, do the check, and once that has happened, you could look at the possibility of a partnership. Number 2, there should be complementary strengths. 1 + 1 could equal more than 2. So I bring my strength, you bring your strength, and we could do things a lot better. So we look at complementary skills that we have. Somebody may be very good in one area, I'm very good in another area. When we come together, we become unstoppable. We create energy. We create strength going forward. Number 3, communication is critical. and transparency is important. Communication should be clear, and communication should be regular in the partnership. Say, Jules, go over that again. Communication should be clear, and communication should be regular. In the absence of communication, people use their imagination. And usually, when you use your imagination in a situation like that, especially if and when your back is against the wall, your imagination tends to be negative. So make sure that is clear. I like to introduce what I call the CTC of communication. Capital C, capital T, capital C. Communication builds trust, and trust builds commitment. Communication builds trust, and trust builds commitment. Very often when commitment is lacking is because trust went through the window. And very often when trust goes out is because we had not been communicating. It happens even in the closest of relationships, in the most intimate relationship. You look at it. So communication is critical. So we need to make sure that it is clear, it is open, it is regular, and that becomes very important for us. So we know what our expectations are. We're not caught off guard by surprise. 4, linked to 3, the whole aspect of trust. Trust and reliability. Trust is a critical ingredient. If you're not trusting, chances are that you ain't going to be as open and transparent. If you're not trusting, chances are in the back of your mind you're looking for a way out, which is not going to create an atmosphere for sustainability. So we make sure that we trust. We make sure that we help each other as we go through. 5, it must create mutual benefit. Win-win situations are important. If it is that I win, but you're not winning, it ain't gonna work. Let me say here though, we may not all win at the same level. But if I'm coming out winning, it gives me the ability to go on, and it encourages me to go forward with confidence. 6, check reputation of the potential partner. If in making your inquiries there's reason to believe that the trust situation is not there, that the person has bad credit, that the person doesn't treat co-workers properly, contemplate whether that is the kind of atmosphere and partnership you want to get into. Don't go into it blindly. Check reputation. What is their track record? How do they behave? Not only in terms of their talents and their abilities, but their attitude. Attitude is just as critical, and some people will say, no, Jules, attitude is more critical than the assets that they bring to the partnership. Check the attitude. Check how they think. 7, there must be some kind of networking etiquette, how we communicate with each other. That again is linked to some of the thoughts that we shared with before. Persons who try to talk down to others in a partnership, that's an indication that things ain't quite right. I may not see things like you, but don't insult me. Don't call me fool. We need to also make sure that the conversations that we're having about our partners that other people are overhearing are healthy and building, not destructive. So that becomes important in creating and sustaining a healthy relationship. We move to number 8. We want a long-term relationship, not a flash in the pan, not just for this convenient opportunity here, but how could we build and retain a relationship over time and that long-term partnership so that we create and sustain a future that looks bright, but it must look bright for both parties, not just for one. 9, make sure that you have some kind of conflict resolution plan. In every relationship, we will not always see eye to eye. there will always be conflict. Conflict is not necessarily bad. You have to learn to manage conflict. And you manage conflict by open, clear communication. Again, I say, conflicts are not necessarily bad. You don't want people around you who only see the way you see it. And this is as true in business as it is in life. We don't always see things the same way. But we need to talk about it and come up with a common approach to it. So have a conflict resolution plan. How are we going to do it? Again, my friends, communication is critical. In the most intimate of relationships, communication is critical. It is especially important, let me say here, it is especially important for our men folk. We as men sometimes are deficient with the quality and level of our communication. We need to do better than we're doing. So let's have the conversation. And that becomes very important for us too. And finally, if you're going into a partnership, cover your bases. Earlier on, I tell you, calculate the risk. You need to make sure that the documentation, especially where you think you may be exposed, that you have legal documentation that protects you in case it doesn't happen. Both ministers this morning in their conversations mentioned that not all businesses that we enter into succeed. The same is also true about partnerships. Not all partnerships that we enter into succeed. But if you follow the best practice, and if you make sure you cover your bases, you're good to go. So I'm saying to you, let's calculate the risk as we go forward. Have clear guidelines in terms of how we will perform, what we will do, and what we will not do. And make sure as best you can, you make provision for the possibility that things may not go the way you want it. So again, I'm not suggesting to you that you run blindly into a partnership, that you run blindly into a collaborative effort. Calculate the risk, look at the best practice, and you could go forward with confidence and make things happen. This, what I'm talking about, is encouraging a change in the way we think, a change in the mindset. My grandmother may have had good intentions when she said, boy, go it alone. A partnership is a sinking ship. I know what she meant, but I need to look at it differently too. I can think of the best practices in partnerships, and I could join with somebody who is like-minded with similar attitudes and similar values, and we could make beautiful things happen. Time doesn't give us the opportunity to go through the examples that I would have liked to share with you. But I can tell you that I have been in partnerships. I have put my money along with other colleagues, and I have seen that money double and triple and go even further than that with business ventures. So I'm not encouraging you to do something that I have not done. But again, I emphasize, calculate the risk. But look at the best practice, follow best practice in terms of making it happen. I leave you with two quotations. This one that you're seeing there is from my good friend and mentor. I'm still in touch with him. He's the former CEO of what was then Neal & Massey, Jesus Pazos. He was the person who, in the days of Neal & Massey, expanded the operation in Trinidad and Tobago, where Neal & Massey had owned and operated about 92 companies. And he says, you will not discover foreign lands if you stay on shore. What does that mean to you and to me? If we stay locked into where we are as a lone wolf, we will not discover the benefits of collaborative efforts and synergy. And the last quotation that I leave with you is from the founder of Walmart, Sam Walton. He says to you, and he says to me, commit to your business. Believe in it more than anybody else. That's a powerful thought. Commit to your business, believe in it more than anybody else. You may have a partner, you may have a spouse that don't have the vision that you have. They may even be fueling negatives into you, tell you you can't do it. It will fail. You need to prove them wrong. And you can prove them wrong if you follow the best practice that you have done with CED. All of the presenters who spent the time to help you and to teach you and to coach you in those training programs, as difficult and as challenging as some of them may have been, shared with you best practice that you could make it. You can turn the table around. 100% of the participants in this CED program should be able, in 10 years' time, to still exist as a business if you follow the best practice. Watch out, please, my brothers and sisters. Watch out for the naysayers. Who you think you are? You remember where you come from? You don't have any education. You don't have enough education. Don't let that bother you. Education is not what makes it happen. Bob Marley tells us about the power of our thought and how that makes a difference. So even as I think of ending, manage your thoughts. Be careful who you listen to. Be careful what you read. Be careful which sites you go to on the internet, because all is not healthy. Look at things that will build you up, not pull you down. If you sow a thought, you reap an action. If you sow an action, you reap a habit. If you sow a habit, you reap a character. If you sow a character, you reap a destiny. Your destiny, my destiny, is largely influenced by the thoughts that we entertain. So I leave you with those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferdinand. I do apologize that you had to cut it short. In the interest of time, we were behind. But I am certain that you have been convinced, you're now convinced that there is power in connection. Right, men and women? So power in connection, you have to collaborate and network in order for your businesses to grow. With that, we come to the end of the formal opening. We're about an hour behind of this opening ceremony for the Men's Empowerment Business Symposium. I want to thank everyone who are here. It's not the time as yet for the vote of thanks. Members of the media would have to leave, and so I truly want to express our gratitude to members of the media who are here. I don't want to just call names and then miss anybody, but I know we have VC3 streaming live, the opening ceremony. Thank you so much. That was a pleasant surprise this morning. We have the newspaper, NBC Radio, WFM Radio. I think the Vincentian is here also. I said SVT Broadcasting, right, SVT TV. And anyone else that I may have missed in the audience who are here from the media, please convey our gratitude to the head of your teams, and we hope that you would continue to support and collaborate with CED as we move forward with our various programs, and in particular, this Men's Empowerment Project. At this stage, we are going to move as fastly as we can to get into the panel discussion We do have some light refreshments in the food lobby on the right. So we take the aisle and you go to your right. Let's try to make it a 10-minute break so that the media can dismantle their equipment, etc. And while we set up to start the panel discussion as soon as possible. So we break at this moment for just about 10 minutes. Let's make it quickly. It's a lot of us. Men, you know I always say to you, let's make this quick. It's a short break. So let's put some added energy into it this morning because we're way behind. And we have a very, very good panel for you that are here to share, and we'd love to get that going.
Hi guys, I'm Chantal and this is Carnival Hop on VC3 TV. Hi guys, I'm Chantal and this is Carnival Hop on VC3 TV.
VC3, baddest thing.
And Hyrule.
Imagine the South Coast without its magic. No sound of waves rolling against the shore. No birds diving into the crystal clear waters. No laughter on the beaches. Our South Coast is a source of life and livelihood. It's a sanctuary for fishermen who rise with the sun, casting their nets to bring fresh seafood to our tables. But they face growing challenges, rising sea temperatures, storms, and pollution, which threaten their way of life and the very fish they rely on. For our hoteliers, the South Coast is an irreplaceable attraction, inviting travelers from around the world. Yet, with climate change, storms grow stronger, and beach erosion steals away the beauty we all cherish. For marine tour operators, every dive and tour is an invitation to witness the magic below the waves. But pollution and coral bleaching are threatening these habitats, and with them, our chance to experience the wonders of the underwater world. For residents, this coast is home, a place to raise families, to feel the sea breeze, and to watch our children play on clean sands. But pollution and litter are changing this place, bringing the threat of a coastline lost. Imagine if all of this just disappeared. No fish, no corals, no sandy beaches. We have a choice. We can protect the South Coast, or we can watch it fade. Together, we can preserve this place for generations to come. Every action matters. Every choice counts. So join us in protecting the South Coast.
These days, we can all agree that our healthcare is more important than ever. And to complement our healthcare system, welcome to the Medical Emergency Center, also called the MEC. Let me tell you all about us. Conveniently located at number 4, 6th Avenue, Belleville. We are a private hospital with state-of-the-art equipment, private rooms, and we promise a caring and confidential experience. We specialize in treatment of coronary artery disease, clogged and blocked heart arteries with angioplasty and stenting, treatment of end-of-heart failure with cardiac resynchronization therapy devices, treatment of all heart diseases, including pacemaker therapy, and acute treatment of heart attack and stroke. Plus, we have a highly skilled response team on standby 24 hours a day, and we have an air ambulance on standby. For appointments or emergencies, call or message us on WhatsApp at 826-4147 or call us on our landline at 624-3278. For more information, visit the Medical Emergency _Center 246 on Instagram and the Medical Emergency Center Hospital on Facebook. All are welcome at the Medical Emergency Center, proudly helping to take Barbados one step closer to a future of optimum health care.
Vincimas 2025 just got better with the official bear of the season, crisp, refreshing, and proudly Vincentian. Hi, Room Bear, hold your own.
SVG, get ready! The National Lotteries Authority is now offering more chances to win with 3D and Play 4 now 3 times a day. 3 times a day. There's a morning draw at 11 a.m., afternoon draw time 3 p.m., and the night draw from 9 p.m. Get your tickets for 3D and Play 4, now drawn 3 times daily, Monday to Saturday, all from the National Lotteries Authority, giving you more chances to win.